Hi, I'm Darren Prince, President and CEO of the Prince Marketing Group. We represent clients such as Magic Johnson, Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, Dennis Rodman, Chevy Chase, Jerry West, Carmen Electra, Denise Richards, Charlie Sheen, and so many more. But that's actually not why I'm here. I'm here to tell you about the 24-year hell of my opiate addiction to the beauty of over 12 years of recovery. And I'm one of the passionate few. I had an amazing time today with Omar on the Passionate Few podcast. He is so talented. He brought out stuff in me that I never thought would come out, and I know it's going to help inspire and motivate so many of you.
Welcome to this episode of The Passionate Few. Today we have on somebody whose story I promise you haven't heard anything like ever before. We're sitting down with none other than Darren Prince. He's the CEO and founder of Prince Marketing Group. But more important than who he's managed, the names like Magic Johnson, Dennis Rodman, Carmen Electra, Charlie Sheen, Chevy Chase, the list goes on. You're gonna hear an incredible story today about a guy who not only made a ton of money, figured out how to get to the top of the ladder of success in business, but something much deeper. A guy who had it all, so to speak, but secretly was dealing with an addiction related to drugs that would affect his life drastically. And he's turned it around. He's been multiple years sober now. And in this interview, he's gonna talk a lot about how he climbed the mountaintop, how he lost it all, and how he regained it again, and help you attain any kind of success you want to in your life, whether you're recovering from addiction, whether you're trying to take your life to the next level, or you just want to hear some incredible stories. I promise you will be blown away, including some special stories about Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier and a whole bunch of other people. So make sure to stay tuned to the very end. Thank you so much for being on the show today, Darren.
Thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely, man. Quite the intro.
Thank you.
But let's get into it, man. So a lot of people might not know what you do, but they certainly know everybody you're involved with. So just can you give the audience a little bit of context as to what you do day to day now and who some of the clients you are and what are some of the transactions you've been involved with?
So Prince Marketing Group is a sports and entertainment marketing agency. We represent iconic athletes and celebrities now for probably over 25 years. We do endorsement deals, television commercials, corporate events, speaking engagements, intellectual property, social media branding opportunities, autograph signings, meet and greets, and we also do a lot of charity initiatives for some great organizations.
Incredible, man. And how long have you been doing this? Because you didn't always start out this way, right? And we'll go back into your childhood, and we'll also be talking about your book, Aiming High. But just day to day, what are some of the clients that you're involved with, just so the audience?
Magic Johnson.
Yeah.
I just spoke to you yesterday. We just completed a small business social media campaign for Amazon. Carmen Electra just released her Go-Go Skin Cream collection, which just got launched. Denise Richards has her CB Me Skin Cream collection. Charlie Sheen and I spoke yesterday. We're getting close to finalizing another commercial for him. Dennis Rodman just signed an apparel deal with the company out of Australia. Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair. Rick just shot his a few days ago for a food delivery service, and Hulk's going to be behind the same campaign doing his around the middle of December. Chevy Chase does these Q&A events where they show Christmas Vacation movie for an hour and a half, and then it comes out in front of thousands of people. So now, because of COVID, we're shifting a lot of those to virtual.
Holy cow. So before you got started representing superstars, take us back to your childhood, because you weren't necessarily headed for representing Magic Johnson at the time, right? I'm sure as a kid that would have tripped you out.
Yeah.
Talk to me, where did you grow up? What was your childhood like? What was your family life like? And where did that ambition start for you as a kid with making money?
I grew up in Livingston, New Jersey, and had a great loving mother and father, the sister Stacy, and a lot of friends, but I was classified as having a learning disability at a very young age, and I think in a way it hurt me, but it helped me. It broke my self-esteem, my self-confidence, and my spirit, but I was challenged by a business teacher, intro to business. His name is Elattar, and to this day, he's very near and dear to me, and I was 14, terrible student, usually D's and F's.
Yeah.
And he challenged the entire class to go home and create a business overnight. Now, a lot of my friends at 14, baseball cards to boys back then, not really popular, not cool anymore. They're kind of old news.
Right.
And I had an obsession with them. And I had 3 side jobs, as I was telling, squeezing orange juice at a supermarket called King's. I was a busboy at a restaurant called Don's, and I worked at a sneaker store in the stock room. And I just took all that extra money and bought everybody's cards. They were more into dating and doing their thing, and I can care less about women. So,
how old were you at that time? You said 14. Wow.
13 and 14.
So you're not dating, thinking about girls, you're just
It's
trying
the
to
last
hustle.
thing on my mind. So when I got that challenge, I go downstairs to my dad that night and I said, hey, Dad, I need insurance for this new business I'm starting. And I'm 14. He's like, business? What are you talking about? What insurance? And I said, yeah, I need about 8 or 9. I'm talking like a big deal for my baseball card collection in case there's ever a flood or a fire, God forbid. He's like, all right, I'll add it to the homeowner's insurance, $1,000 tomorrow, so at least you're covered. I go, no, but I'm in my pajamas and I'm pulling on his pants. I go, Dad, $8,000 or $9,000, not $800 or $900. So now my dad took such great, care of me mentally and just everything he had to do to be the best father. He sat me down and goes, how the heck did you get $8,000 or $9,000 worth of cards? Why are they worth that? And who can you sell them to? And I said, it's funny you should ask. And I pulled out this big newspaper ad. Because I had this in my mind already. And it was 1984. I was like, for $40, I can get an 8-foot table, Dad, in 2 weeks. And I can sell these things. I could buy, I could trade. And it seems really exciting. And he's like, all right. He goes, well, let's give it a shot for $40. It seems like it's well worth it. And Steve Simon, who ironically runs my agency now, we go back 40 years, we split the table. So I minimized any potential loss on the $40. But thank God we didn't split the profits because he had his cards and I had mine. And I spent 2 weeks every night after school. That was my opportunity to show the world that Darren Prince was somebody.
What drove you? I mean, because most 14-year-olds, especially back then, now there's a push towards entrepreneurship with social media and awareness to it. What at that age was pushing you to get money, hustle, make it happen?
I always had a hustle. I mean, at 12 years old, I used to buy Juicy Fruit Wrigley's and Big Red gum. They used to come in a plastic strip, 10 packs for 99 cents, and I would sell them for $0.25. So I would 2.5 times my money, and all the kids at school would buy them from me. Literally 12, 13 years old. So when I saw the card market value, there wasn't Beckett, which people are aware of today. It was a company called CCP, Current Card Price Guide. It was a newspaper, like the Wall Street Journal. Once a week, I would get so excited when he came in the mail because I would see a card went up from $5 to $10 to $15 to $100. And I just knew at some point that there's got to be a way to start selling these things. And when I got ready for the show, I was up at 5 a.m. that morning, and the show didn't even start till 10. It was like going to a Little League game or a soccer game, but even bigger.
Probably felt like the World Series to you at that time, or the Super Bowl.
And it was a family affair. My dad came, my mother came, my grandmother, Frances, came, and something came alive in me in that room. I felt like a rock star for the first time in my life.
I was going to say, was that the first time were you picked on? Did you have friends?
I was verbally bullied and mentally teased, being called an idiot. I hate using the R word, but R only were the classrooms I was in. And, you think it's funny and whatnot, but it goes somewhere in your core in those developmental years. And so that really just pushed me to be like, you know what, I'm gonna show people that I'm somebody. And I made over $1,000 that first Sunday afternoon.
No way.
14. So I came home with this bag of cash. I bought, I sold, I traded. I did amazing trades that made my collection worth even more. And the light bulb went on, and literally every weekend there were shows. But what was amazing, when I got home that night and I was flying, eventually I crashed. I felt like that loser kid in the back of the row at school. And I couldn't figure out why until drugs came into my life.
So how long did you run that? How long did you?
The baseball card business I ran till I was 19. I sold the company for $1 million at 19.
At 19? Cash, $1 million cash?
Yep.
Okay, how much were you making? Because I remember you told me at like 16 you were making $300,000 a month or something?
I was making about $400,000 or $500,000 a year.
A year?
Yeah, selling cards.
Can you just zoom in on that? Because I'm sure there's people listening, and the craze of cards has come back, as I'm sure you know.
Bigger than ever. I'm big time into it and buying them like crazy.
So can you kind of zoom in and just talk about like the numbers, just so somebody on a practical level could understand the model? So you took some cards, and how did you flip it?
So basically what happened, back then in the 80s, the hot players were Canseco, McGuire, Don Mattingly, Darryl Strawberry, Tony Gwynn, Wade Boggs, Ricky Henderson. But I went vintage because that's where the real money was. So what happened was at these shows, I would.
It's so funny at 14 you were thinking
I would trade my friends, by the way, the new players that they liked. For these guys they never heard of, Joe DiMaggio, Babe Ruth, and Mickey Mantle, that they got from their fathers and grandfathers because they didn't care about old, smelly, stinky cards. They wanted the new players. I cared about the money. So go ahead, take my Don Mattingly's and Wade Boggs and Darryl Strawberry. I'll take your Babe Ruth and your Mickey Mantles. And that's how the collection got up there so high.
Very smart.
So then I had these stockbrokers. I was the first kid like anywhere. Most of my friends' parents didn't have it. I had a cell phone by Bell Atlantic was the name of the company. And it was this big metal battery pack with this leather case and a rubber antenna. And I had to put a metal antenna on the outside of my car so it worked. And it was $3 a minute back then because it was unheard of to have a cell phone. So in between class, I would pick up the phone and I would call people who were all stockbrokers.
Yeah.
Even Keith Olbermann from ESPN was a client of mine at 16 years old, and he's a big card collector. And these guys were just fanatic about it. Hey, Darren, if you find a beautiful Mickey Mantle rookie, I'm interested. I said, okay, what's your budget? $7,000. I pick the card up for $5,500. I flip it, add 15-20%, and that was my job for 5-6 years. I was like the guy that everybody came to scout out the best condition cards that they wanted.
So you're making $500,000 a year before you graduated high school?
Yep.
And then you sell the company at 19 for how much?
I sold it for $1 million, which was the inventory in the mailing list. Yeah.
And then what do you do with the cash at 19?
I parlayed that into a sports and entertainment autograph signing company.
And you weren't blowing the money or
I
girls?
a ton of money. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, I wasn't saving.
Let's hear some of those decisions.
My dad was trying to steal some of it, so I was a little bit responsible. And rest in peace, my Uncle Joe. They gave me a small loan from an investment group that they had for $20,000.
Yeah.
And that I eventually turned that money over tenfold, paid the investors back, and I was off to the races. But they tried teaching me that they weren't impressed, as my Uncle Stuart did too, with what I made. They were impressed with what I saved and what I invested. And at that age, you're a broken, insecure kid. I want everybody to know it's a big deal. It was cool taking my friends out to dinner on the weekend and pulling out a couple thousand in cash and going to Atlantic City with fake IDs and going to the city to the village and paying $300-400 for dinners and taking everybody out. And it was probably my way buying a lot of friends, but I thought that's what I needed. I thought that's what made me cool.
Did you buy cars? Did you have like the coolest cars?
Yeah, I did. I don't think it's on the market anymore, but back then it was insane to get this when I was 18, the Mitsubishi 3000 GT.
Yeah.
It was unheard of. It was like a groundbreaking car, and I
didn't
just spend $70,000 on the car. There was a guy, Hennessy Motorsports, who I know is even bigger to this day. He's out of Houston. I had the car shipped. I was the first person in New Jersey to get it, and I dropped another $20,000 to supercharge it, put new wheels on it, this little nitrous oxide shifter, and I was like the coolest kid in town.
Was it red?
It was black. Black with silver rims. Yep.
That's incredible. Okay, so then you parlay that, and then what gives you the foresight to do the autograph
So what happened
signings?
was at these baseball card shows, I would see athletes signing autographs, and I was amazed that people would wait in line all day, and I go, this is pretty cool. And again, I think that insecurity, the need to feel cool and accepted, kind of cool rubbing elbows with celebrities, and the light bulb went in my head. I go, who's like the biggest name in the world that I've seen that's done these? So at 20, it was probably around 22, 23, after I was just dabbling in signings, I was like, I got to get in touch with Muhammad Ali. So through a mutual friend,
that's so wild.
Harlan Werner, who was Hamid's longtime agent and manager for 30 years, we met. And I remember that I met him a year earlier, so I called up this friend and I said, can you connect me with Muhammad's agent?
And you would just meet these people at the card things or at the
and stuff.
Yep. So you had accidentally been planting the seed for those relationships.
Exactly.
And they knew you as a guy.
Was the perfect word, because I didn't think about it at that point. What I was doing was dabbling in memorabilia. I was still selling cards. There wasn't any non-compete back then. I was just looking for my next move. So I called up Harlan one day, and he was real arrogant, just like I was, and I love him to death. And immediately I was attracted to him because he's this young hotshot kid representing Joe Namath, Sandy Koufax, Muhammad Ali, Roy Campanella. And I told him what my idea was, and he goes, look, here's how it works. Muhammad will do this for you. He'll be in Boston. He has an event. He'll sign 500 boxing gloves and photos, trunks, whatever it is that you want. It'll cost you X amount of money. And he doesn't like a lot of people in the room. He likes to work. He's super friendly. Let me know. And he was a huge help. And I took 3 people. We drove up from New Jersey, 4 hours to Boston, and it was a life-changing day.
Were you nervous?
It was, of course. It's Muhammad Ali, the most recognized human being on earth, the greatest of all time, the goat of goats,
Yeah, of course.
I met him 3 years earlier in the lobby of a hotel at a national baseball card show in Arlington, Texas, and he couldn't have been nicer, but now I was actually getting a chance to work with him. And it went flawless, and Harlan called me after and said, Muhammad, really appreciates you. He had a great time with you. His attorney loved you. His wife, they're all big fans. And I go, of course, I'm this insecure 23-year-old kid that's taking this, oh my God, Muhammad Ali loves me. And, so we just started through Harlan, probably doing and booking more autograph signings than anybody in the business. And then from there, Harlan introduced me to Magic's longtime player rep at the time, Lon Rosen. I got in with Magic Johnson. Through a mutual friend, I got in with Chevy Chase and then Pamela Anderson, and just started booking autograph signings for all of them for probably about 3-4 years.
And the business model was there's an X fee, and then you just take a setup fee.
There's an X fee, whether it's based on time or pieces, sometimes in a hotel room, sometimes at a convention. And
those were pretty profitable for you at that time,
Yep.
And then, okay, take me back, because I remember there was a moment where you said you were with your pops, I believe.
Yep.
And you said, I want to, after you sold the card business, and you said, I want to do this, but you were kind of, maybe had limited beliefs, you were kind of scared or worried about what to parlay next. Can you take us to that moment? Because I think didn't your pops tell you, like, go find the biggest in the world if that's what you want or something?
He was a huge inspiration. I miss him so much. I lost him in February of 2017. So what happened was I got in a lot of trouble with the FBI. I was investigated for mail fraud. There's a huge case called Operation Foul Ball. I'm pretty sure it's on the internet to this day. And what it was there was a group of artists that mastered every one of the Chicago Bulls players' autographs from that iconic 72 and 10 team. And part of the ring was a forensic document expert retired from the FBI that was authenticating the items as real. So I was buying a lot of Michael Jordan signed jerseys, baseballs, photos, team signed stuff. And during the course of a year and a half, probably sold a few $100,000 worth of it. Everybody was so excited. These great collectibles on their wall, their man cave, their office. And I got a call from the FBI one day because I was one of the foremost experts because they saw everybody I was doing signings for.
And how old are you at this time?
I was 25 years old.
25.
And I'm thinking this is great. And I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. I was 26 because it was literally the night I left Muhammad at the Essex House Hotel 2 weeks after he lit the torch at the Olympics in Atlanta. So I'm on top of the world. I was like, oh, this is great. They need my expertise. I'm like, I'm great, blah, blah, building myself up. The next day they call me and they say, Mr. Prince, by the way, if you have an attorney to assist you, it might help the process. And I'm like, that's bizarre. The same agent just called me and asked for an attorney. I called on my lawyer. He goes, don't speak to them anymore. Let me reach out. He goes, look, you need to bring me with you. I don't know what's going on, but something isn't right. Something stinks. So I go out there. I speak to my supplier before I go, and he's telling me they're trying to get him on tax evasion. Don't give him anything. You wrote me checks on everything. Everything's clean. Just keep it simple. And I think in the process during the interview, getting nervous because this is a major deal. I'm in the FBI office in Chicago. I distorted the truth a little bit about some of the things that I bought from him, that there was never any customer complaints, which I truly believe there wasn't. And we took a break for lunch, come back, and they hit a tape recorder. And then my phone lines tapped for 6 months at my office in New Jersey. And one of my employees was sort of arguing with the collector in Ohio that had an issue with one of the items and wanted to return it. And the argument was about, how do we know it's still yours? 6 months is a long time. That's what they got me on, basically making a false statement to the FBI. But the amazing thing is because I had all those relationships, Muhammad, Magic, Rodman, they all sent letters to the judge about my credibility. But I lost everything. I was about $1 million in debt because my dad taught me that at that time, look, you need to do what you got to do to keep your reputation intact. You need to start sending refund letters out, offer people refunds, do the right thing.
Reputation.
I don't know how much I could help you. I'll do the best that I can, but you certainly don't have enough people with money. And
so you had to refund all those customers?
Yeah, it's amazing because not everybody took refunds because the stuff looks so amazing. They're like, I don't really care. It's just such a cool conversation piece. But probably 50% of the people, I couldn't afford to keep my staff anymore. It was a real dark period for somebody that was such a hot shot for about 10 years of his life. And that's when the fishing trip happened.
Were you a multimillionaire at that point or no?
Before it.
Yeah.
Before it, I probably had a net worth of a couple $1 million.
Yeah. And then after that, you went negative $1
I
million.
went negative about
So
$1
you
million.
went plus $1 million at 19 to negative $1 million at 26.
Yeah, by the time 1996 rolled around. And my last $3,000 to my name, I got this idea to take my dad fly fishing in Alaska on a trip of a lifetime, because that was our thing, fishing.
Yeah.
And he was an old school Jewish guy, didn't want me spending the money. I said, it's too late, here are the tickets. Paper tickets back then, they'd mail them to you.
Yeah.
He goes, all right, we'll go. And it was the first day we were out there, he looked at me and he's like, what's your next move? What are you going to do? You're going to try to get back into the business? And it's like, nah, Dad, you know what? I said, there's only so much I can do with silencing the haters and the critics, because people want to see you on top and then they want to kick you when you're down. I want to be an agent, but I'm 26, and if I go back to law school, if I go to law school, I'm not going to get out to my early 30s. And he goes, why do you need to go to law school? He goes, don't you need to be a lawyer to be an agent? And he goes, Darren, life is about who you know, not what you know. Look at who you have access to. And talk to your biggest client. He goes, in my opinion, it's magic. And he supported you through all this, and he knows about making mistakes, and gave me the drive to talk to him. So 2 weeks later, we were in Detroit, and I went to get him in his hotel suite for an autograph signing appearance. And always the most personable guy in the world, like a big brother, that $1 billion smile, called me into his room, sat me down, everything worked out with the FBI and the court situation. And he said the same thing my dad said. He goes, what's your next move? What are you going to do next? And my hands were sweating. I was so freaking nervous.
Yeah, of course.
Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this opportunity. I'm 26 years old, and it just came out. Because it was one of those moments that you can either keep it inside and regret it the rest of your life, or just go for it. And he's like, an agent, huh? He goes, who do you want to represent? Who do you think is going to be our first client? And I'm like literally like this. I go, Ervin, I'd love it to be you. I call him by his real name. And he goes, okay. He goes, look, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I love you. You have a big heart. You made a mistake. I know about making mistakes. I love your family too. I'm going to give you 2 years, so you better get a good entertainment lawyer, put together an agreement. He goes, but if you don't use me to knock down every door in those 2 years to bring in all the celebrities that you can to your client roster, I'm going to fire you before the 2 years is up. And I'm like, huh? He goes, because life isn't how successful I become, Darren. I'm going to become successful at a level they've never seen. It's about how successful I can make people like you and everybody else around me to domino effect. And it was just such a life-changing moment from a life-changing guy, because he's literally telling me to exploit him, to use his name to build my brand. And I went to every single one of the clients we were signings for, and within a month, I just became this super agent in the media.
Yeah.
Darren Prince just signed Magic Johnson, Chevy Chase, Pamela Anderson, never doing anything outside of an autograph signing. And my dad was quick to remind me, calm down. They're calling you super agent because your clients are special, not because you're special. So remember that. Yeah. And that kind of put my ego in check.
Wow. What were some of the challenges in getting those big names? Or at a certain point, did you just kind of develop a comfort because of magic? Or was it always kind of a lot of anxiety and you just leaned into it to still try to get those conversations, still try to pitch those meetings?
I mean, I think it got easier. There might have been a couple times along the way where some might have been a little bit difficult, but I just knew I was real. And I'm not an agent that's coming after you to just be your agent. Like, we're going to produce. Yeah. And we're going to bring you opportunities. And we don't ask you for things. We don't ask for favors like most of the people in your life. When I call you, it's because we have an opportunity, to make some real money together and for you.
Wow. And how did you develop your chops in that? Were you calling other agents learning, or just on the fly? I mean, because you literally had no experience.
That's the thing. I really didn't have any mentors in the agent game outside of some of the doors Harlan opened. But, I learned to listen. I learned to be real attentive. Magic gave me a lot of pointers along the way. Hulk Hogan was, a great mentor. Rodman, believe it or not, helped me a lot. And these guys kind of would, see the way I would do certain things. And then I just started learning the business, because once you knock down that first big deal, whether it's a Super Bowl commercial or an endorsement, and I'm dealing with the lawyers and I'm learning the lingo, and then it's a TV type of project or a movie and pay or play, and I'm learning all these friggin' slogans and sayings. And, eventually I just started, when I could afford it, bringing people on board to help me out, because I knew what I was great at, which was the personable side of it. And then I started bringing people more intelligent around me that could really be my sponge as well, that can dish it to me as they learn about it.
Yeah, dude, that's incredible. And what year is this that you start in that business?
Oh, I actually started Prince Marketing Group in '94, but it was purely an autograph signing company.
Gotcha.
The first time we did something like major outside of an autograph signing was, I started in '97, doing bigger things, and Magic, we got him a satellite media tour deal for Post Boys and Girls Club, and he went on Regis and Kathy Lee at the time, which was pretty surreal experience, knowing that I was behind a project like that. And he told my dad, he called him up and said how proud he was that, how about your boy going from autograph signings to booking me a satellite media tour? And they were just laughing about it together.
Yeah. Did you find that during those years that you yourself were like, how the hell am I even doing this? Was there moments where it was surreal to you, or were you just so in it and it was so fast paced that you just kind of had to learn?
No,
on the
I
fly?
I had self-doubt, I think, at a certain point, but I was also hiding a secret that gave me that false sense of confidence that a lot of people didn't know about.
And that was the drugs.
Yeah.
And what drugs were you using at that time?
After I signed Magic and Smoking Joe and a lot of them, I paid attention to the morality clauses, so I eventually stopped the illegal drugs and opiates. Really became my best friends. Percocets, Vicodin, and Oxycontin, and having sciatica issues and back pain. These doctors gave me anything I needed. So legally, I'm traveling around the world with a pill bottle with my name on it. And I tell people for 6 or 7 years, man, it worked. I was a rock star, like Omar the rock star. And I was just fearless.
Yeah.
And
at what age to what age?
it started probably from 26 to about 33, 34.
And was it just the high? Because a lot of common denominators, I sat down with Jordan Belfort, Wolf of Wall Street. He told me that, there was a year where he was making so much money, he's on such a high, that you just crave more of a high. You want more, you want more. Was it that kind of thing?
Yeah.
More money, more opportunity, more high.
That's what it was, more clients, just bigger stable, another make a superstar.
Bigger house, bigger car, whatever, just that chase. Was that what it was?
That's what it was. It was the chase, because being a recovering drug addict, I'm a feel-good junkie. So it's whatever can give me that, really ultimately was a false sense of confidence. It was once living to use turned out to using to live. And to this day, I can't tell you when it turned on me, but it turned probably 33, 34 years old. And I remember being at an event with Smoking Joe in Dallas, Texas.
Joe Frazier.
And I was in the room before I went to get him ready, and I took a couple Percocets, and I felt nothing. And it felt like kryptonite. Like it felt like I was Superman and I lost my powers. And that feeling that I chased for so many years was next to impossible to ever get back. And the next 4 years of hell, suicidal thoughts, just at that point I was taking it just to not go into extreme detox, completely.
And are you drinking too?
Yeah, I'm drinking. I wasn't the biggest drinker, but I'm drinking to get a little buzz, to numb out, taking sleeping medication.
Yeah. Were you smoking weed, or it was mostly
no?
pills?
Because again, that was illegal.
Yeah,
So at least in my mind, I was like, let me be responsible with my drug addiction and
let me abide by the contract.
Giving me, so I can't get in trouble.
Yeah, and you could always hide by the doctors or whatever.
Yeah, my name's on the pill bottle.
Yeah. And you were doing this and still functional, still productive, still growing the business, or how were you?
Highly functioning. Yeah, the business was blowing up.
Yeah, and that probably reinforced you to even keep doing it, right? Because you're like, I'm fine, I could run the business.
And then what one of my agents are going to say, Darren, we think you have a problem, because they don't want to lose their position in the company. They don't want to get fired. And they're also caught up with the outside stuff just like I am. They're seeing me on Donnie Deutsch and all the big talk shows. And it's like, let's see, probably just needs to take the edge off. And
yeah. Wow. And did they see what was going on? Like they saw, like your staff, your team, they saw you taking the...
Only Steve Simon in my office saw it. Towards the end, maybe it was my mom and my dad and Hulk and Magic were probably the only 4 or 5 people in my world that knew how bad it was.
And where was the rock bottom moment where you knew you had to change, or where you decided to turn
Rock
around?
bottom, I was in Las Vegas with Dennis for All-Star Weekend in 2007. And me and Steve just put together a TV show deal with Mark Cuban for Dennis called Geek to Freak. And there's supposed to be a big party for Dennis that night at Square Strip Club. I woke up that morning with horrible bronchitis and called the doctor to the room. There was a cough syrup that I love called Tussin X, which is loaded with opiates. And he gave me a prescription for 100 Percocets and some antibiotic. I went to the pharmacy. I called my then wife. I was like, order me 3 vodka Red Bull and cranberries because I'm ready to go out, And I get back to the room and finished half the cough syrup, so I chopped up a couple Percocets, was snorting off my hand, and down went 2 of the vodka Red Bull cranberries, and I had my first and only overdose. I fell down to the ground. I was grabbing my heart. It was palpitating. I'm foaming at the mouth. I'm shaking. I felt like I was going into convulsions, and I'm like, holy shit, God, don't take me. I swear to God, I'll never do this again. And as I'm looking up at the sky, she's panicking and screaming, and next thing I know, within 5 minutes, the paramedics literally knocked down the front door. Oxygen mask in my face, needle in both my arms, EKG machine. My pupils are like I'm out of control with and clearly I never made it out that night, but I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I walk into the bathroom knowing what I just did and what just happened. And I look myself in the eyes like, you sick bastard. Like, who does this? You've got all this. And I'm bloodshot and there's bags under my eyes. And with that, I grabbed the cough syrup. I finished the other half of the bottle. I chop up 4 more Percocets and I snort and I go back and lying to bed. Because my sick best thinking was it was the vodka Red Bull and cranberry that was the mistake. You don't mix that stuff with prescription-based cough syrup and the Percocets. They say the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different result. That was it right there at the Palms Hotel in that moment. And that next week, I finally had a little bit of accountability. So I called an addiction psychiatrist, told me I was an opiate addict, put me on Suboxone. At the same time, I'm snorting Ambien before I go to bed at night. I'm still drinking a couple days a week when I'm out with friends. I'm on a mood stabilizer, anxiety medication, and antidepressant.
And you're still able to deal with Magic Johnson and big multi-million-dollar transactions and be in the mix with all that, even while going through all this.
Yep.
And you hid it from your clients?
I hid it from my clients. Yeah, Magic knew a year and a half before I got clean how bad it got.
Yeah.
He called me from New York City from a hotel and really gave it to me, but he showed me Ervin Johnson, not Magic Johnson, the real Ervin Johnson. And Ervin Johnson Jr., he was clearly concerned, as was Hulk Hogan.
What do you think you were trying to numb or chase or get away from? Because
I don't think I ever felt worthy of it.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I don't think I ever felt worthy of the
like
success.
There's like a theme of that.
I think it was always an outside fix looking for what was really an inside job. And I wanted the whole world to think, he's arrived. This is the kid from the back of the row. This is the learning disabled kid. This is the skinny, goofy kid with the big afro that wasn't supposed to make it. And running far and far away from that, by all that exterior crap. The big celebrities, the beautiful girlfriends, the cars, the red carpets, the sideline at the Super Bowl with all these celebrities. I remember Ray Lewis came and got Joe and I in 2000 after they beat the Giants, and we're in the locker room with the team. I mean, but again, I'm lit up for every one of these experiences because I can't be there. How could Darren Prince be worthy of it? And, the Ali Frazier experience was, the pinnacle of that in 2002, the night before the NBA All-Star game.
Talk to me about that.
So we worked for the better half, me and Harlan, and my dad helped, and my boy Nicky C, for 7 or 8 years to get those two kings together. And it was amazing because
Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier.
Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier, greatest rivalry in the history of sports. There'll never be anything like it. And Muhammad would be down once in a while, but then every once in a while, hey, champ, I'm gonna see Smoking Joe next week. You want me to tell him something? And he'd say, look, and he goes, yeah, tell him he's still a gorilla. And I said, oh my God, we'd be like this close. And then I'd be with Joe at the gym with his son Marvis, like, Joe, I'm gonna be in Michigan next week. Can I call you with Muhammad? I'd love you guys to say hello. Once in a while, but actually get them on the phone. It wouldn't say much, but hey man, how are you? What's happening? And Joe was like, tell him if he's ready for another goddamn ass beating. I got one for him, okay? So it was like really dealing with children. And eventually in 2001, I think it was, Muhammad, you could pull this up online, New York Times had a front page article, Muhammad Ali to Joe Frazier, I'm sorry. Joe Frazier is a good man. And anything I said was to promote the fights. And I apologize. If God ever called me into a holy war, I'd want Joe Frazier right beside me. And that was it. So I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. I called Harlan. We got to get this to happen. Joe wasn't ready. He still wasn't ready. He appreciated it. And Harlan called me maybe 3 or 4 months later, and I thought this was it. Lonnie and Muhammad wanted me, Joe, and Marvis to come out for the Ali movie premiere and ride on the limo with Will Smith on the red carpet. Joe didn't want to do it.
No.
Only time Joe yelled at me. He goes, you tell that motherfucker, if he wants to do it, it's got to be on my home turf in Philadelphia. I ain't getting on no goddamn airplane. I don't trust the son of a bitch. I couldn't believe it. Like, here I am, like, my early 30s dealing with this.
You
like,
deal with Muhammad Ali, Joe
insanity,
Frazier,
and I bring, Joe and I were out in LA for an appearance, maybe 4 or 5 months after that. And I said, hey, can we go to Harlan's office? Let's just go. He's Muhammad's guy. Joe goes and literally was talking about that he's ready. And he had tears in his eyes. I could see Harlan was getting emotional. And when we left, Harlan called me, goes, D, we're making this happen soon. I'm calling Lonnie and Muhammad. I'm going to meet with them next week. I'm going to say, I saw that forgiveness in his heart. I saw that he wants to let this go. And the world needs to see that if these two great kings can make peace, so could the rest of the world.
And what was the friction for all those years? What was it?
Muhammad overdid it with, I know you're young, but if you watch some footage, you'll see, Muhammad called him a gorilla. He cast him as an Uncle Tom, which is the biggest insult to a black man. Means you're a white man's champion. Just overdid it. Taunted Joe a lot, called him a lot of names. After that epic fight, March 8th of 1971, which was the first time 2 undefeated heavyweight champs met, Vietnam War stopped that night. That's how big it was. And Muhammad said if he got his ass whooped, he would have crawled across the ring and told him, Joe Frazier, you are the greatest of all time. Muhammad never did, and he got his ass kicked. Muhammad's first loss. So Joe had a lot of resentment built up and a lot of hate. And even though Muhammad did it supposedly for the fights, he crossed the line with a lot of things he said. So then Joe, once Muhammad got sick, would say, where do you think you got that from? He fought 3 times. He says he won 2. I think I won all 3. Look at the way he is now, and can't really go out and say that in the public. When a guy's got Parkinson's, and it really hurt Joe for quite a while, but he didn't care. That was his belief. So it was just back and forth until we had that moment of All-Star Weekend in Philadelphia in 2002.
And if you're watching the podcast, we'll put up a photo, because that photo is so iconic with you, Muhammad Ali, and Frazier. Take us to that night. What happens?
So I get a call that morning from Damon Bingham, who has since passed. He was Muhammad's godson. Howard Bingham, the famed photographer, was Muhammad's best friend who passed about 2 years ago. And they said, we just spoke to Harlan with Lonnie, and we'd like to invite you, Joe, and Marvis is Joe's son, to Muhammad's suite tonight for dinner. I'm just like out of my mind at this point. It's like, oh my God. And I knew we didn't have plans. Joe was probably going to lay low because we were going to the All-Star game the next day. So I said, okay, so let me call him. I'll call you right back. And I'm just like, I pray to God, please just tell him to God. I'm like, just tell him to say yes. And without hesitation, he goes, all right, man, let's go see the butterfly tonight. I'm good. What time you want is there? And I was with my boy Nicky Senior Cordasco, and it was bittersweet because my dad wanted to be there, and he was 2.5 hours away in New Jersey, and even worse was Harlan was stuck in Vegas. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and some other clients at a big convention couldn't make it on time. Harlan's like, Darren, you're going. This is historic. Don't worry about it. We'll get them together at another point. You cannot not make this happen because I'm not there. And an hour before I went to get Joe, I'm in the hotel room doing what I always did, and I'm snorting Percocets and Vicodins in the hotel room. Because how could Darren Prince be in this room where I know any president, world leader, mega A-list celebrity would not believe that this is happening right now? And we get to the hotel room door, and Lonnie meets us, Muhammad's amazing wife, and gives Joe a hug, gives me a hug, and Marvis a hug, and Joe walks over to Muhammad. He was on the couch, and his diet wasn't great, so he was definitely more overweight at that time in his life, between that and the Parkinson's medication. And Muhammad is smiling with that classic grin. And Joe goes, hey man, how you doing? And Muhammad puts his arm out. Joe goes to grab his arm, and Joe sees he needed help to get up. So Joe locks his back leg, and he goes under Muhammad's armpit, and he gets him up. And Muhammad just falls over his shoulder like this. And like a child puts his head on Joe's shoulder. And I hear Muhammad say, thank you, Joe, and Darren and Marvis, because Muhammad just found peace.
Wow.
And looking at both of them, they're grabbing each other's face. We're all in tears. This is just like...
Yeah, how's this happening?
Incredible. And now we go for dinner, And Muhammad and Lonnie were great. They're talking to Joe about his diabetes and different doctors they wanted to send him to maybe improve it.
And you're in your head at this dinner table.
Oh, I'm at a dinner
this
table that like Nelson Mandela, President Clinton, you name it, would have been like, how do I get in there? Like how do we not know about this?
Who was at the dinner table? Just to give us.
It was Muhammad, Lonnie, me, Nick, Marvis, Howard Bingham, and Damon Bingham. So 7 of us.
Yeah.
And Muhammad starts biting his bottom lip, that famous mimicking that Billy Crystal does so well.
Yeah.
Just in the middle of dinner, he's got like food on him, and he's being a little sloppy with his eating. He goes, Joe Frazier. And he starts doing the rant. He goes, I'm gonna get the gorilla in Manila. And Joe drops his fork in the plate. He goes, man, we already went 42 rounds. We just made peace back there and broke bread. Am I gonna have to give you another goddamn ass whooping? And everybody's hysterical. I'm like, I cannot believe what I'm witnessing here right now. This is just like, and we spent about 2 hours. Marvis was a reverend and he wanted to do a little prayer and Joe stopped him. And it was Marvis, Joe, and Muhammad holding hands, just the 3 of them, when we left. And Joe goes, son, I've got this. And they all shut their eyes. And he goes, dear Lord, we have forgotten and we have forgiven. And please help to heal this man. That means so much to the world. He's got grandkids and children and people that love him. And please get him well. As I see the tears just rolling down Joe and Muhammad's face. And it was forgiveness at a form that I've never seen. And we just leave and I'm on top of the world. I couldn't even sleep that night. And the next morning the NBA calls me and said, did Muhammad and Joe get together last night? We heard that Joe was in Muhammad's hotel. I said, no. I said, no. I said, we were in his hotel, but of course I'm not going to talk about it out of their privacy. And they said, well, let me ask you something, Darren, would it be okay, Muhammad's going to be at the game today, if we sat Joe and Muhammad somewhat near each other? I said, yeah, no, I think it would be okay. Now I'm like, oh my God, I thought last night was incredible. What the hell's going on? Like, are we actually going to be sitting courtside with each other? So I don't want to tell Joe, just in case it never happened.
Yeah.
So we walk in and the place is going nuts because it's Joe's hometown. People screaming Frazier, smoking Joe. And we sit at seat 3, dead center court. There's 1 and 2, and then I'm in seat 3. Joe goes in 4, and Nick goes with me to 5. Because it was just the 3 of us. Nick and I took him to the game. And I'm there for about 10 minutes, and all of a sudden you hear that chant, man. And you're too young to know it or experience it, but it's that Ali, Ali. There was never a figure in the world that can bring out a crowd like he could. And I see Muhammad come like hobbling in and he's shaking, and I see Howard Bingham behind him. And Muhammad sits right next to me in seat 2. And Howard's in seat 1, and these pictures are all online.
Yeah.
I was like, holy crap, I can't believe this is happening right now. And Magic comes over with Cookie, and Justin Timberlake's dating Britney Spears, and Diddy's there with his son Justin, who's this big, and everybody's going. That's Kobe's at center court with Iverson, and Michael, who's playing for the Wizards, and
Jordan, yeah.
Joe nudges me like this. And he called me boss man. He goes, you're boss man. I go, yeah. He goes, switch seats with me. And I go, thank God he asked, because I'm like, I don't want to be next to Muhammad. So I get up and I go, my pleasure. And he sits down next to him, and the 2 of them are holding hands like this, man. And Alicia Keys goes out to sing America the Beautiful. And
my God.
They're standing with their arms intertwined. And again, these pictures are everywhere.
Yeah, we'll put a
170 countries that they're, you can Google it, not even the ones I have. And they were the last 2 to sit down because, again, Muhammad was a little unstable. And once everybody sat down, they were still standing. And obviously the NBA knew what was going on, and it just went right on them in front of 170 countries. And everybody just starts standing up again. And they eventually sit, and I hear Muhammad go, yo, champ. And Joe replies, yeah, champ. I'm like, holy crap, the highest level of respect. This is insane. They both called each other champ. Yeah. And Muhammad goes, we're still 2 badass brothers, aren't we? And he goes, yes, we are, man. Yes, we are. And they were just cut from a different cloth. They were just,
that is
just incredible men, man. I mean, they got it. And celebrities that have egos and the way they behave nowadays need to look at those 2 books. Because I've seen the biggest stars on the planet become kids. I've seen President Clinton, Spielberg, Dustin Hoffman, De Niro, Pacino, Denzel Washington. I mean, it doesn't matter who you are. It's Ali, Frazier, and everybody else. And to see how humble they were and the way they were there for their fans. And They were just so unaffected by it.
On your personal level and your interactions with Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier in particular, what was it about them that you think most people will never even understand? Because you got to be in the rooms with them, so you have a unique ticket to history.
Well, first off, their fights were beyond epic.
Of course, yeah.
The rivalry outside the ring was just as epic. And I mean, put it this way, remember when LeBron's Cavs upset Golden State on that Game 7 NBA Finals? Yep. You can go on YouTube, the press conference after the game, they asked him what he did to prepare for the game. He goes, I showed the whole team Ali, Frazier, 3, the thrill in Manila. Yeah. Because I needed them to see two men at their peak, going back and forth, willing to die in that ring for a victory in a world championship. I mean, it's just crossed over so much. There's so many times I hear the name, it's the Ali Frazier of this, it's the Ali Frazier of that. And they stopped the world anytime they fought.
Yeah, that's insane. Now, at this time, you're still doing the opiates?
Yeah.
And how old are you at that particular time?
32.
So 32, and then when was the moment where you finally decided you want to get clean? And I know you talk about it in your book.
It was after Vegas, so I was, that experience with Rodman, not that Dennis was with me, but when the addiction specialist had me on the Suboxone, which is an opiate blocker, I kind of got stuck on it for a year and a half, and I didn't realize I got addicted to the Suboxone. And Dr. Drew was somebody who's a very dear friend to this day, that we laugh about it now because we could. He called to get Dennis on celebrity rehab, and because he got another DUI, and I'm on the phone. I thought I'm sober because I'm on Suboxone. I'm not getting high on opiates. So I'm like bragging. I'm like, Doc, by the way, while I have you, I got a year clean. He goes, oh, good for you. Congratulations. What were you taking? What was your drug of choice? I said opiates. He goes, how'd you get clean? I go, I just go to a psychiatrist. He gives me Suboxone once a week. And he goes, wait a minute. Are you still on the Suboxone? I go, yeah. He goes, for how long? I said, it's been over a year. He goes, Darren, that's more addictive than the opiates itself, because you're not supposed to be on that for more than a month, my friend. I hope you can try to get off of it. And I realized that it was pure hell. And July 1st, 2008, I was at my wit's end. That entire month, I was hoping I wasn't going to wake up in the morning. I was married. I made sure my will and everything was done properly for my mom, my dad, my sister, and my then wife. And I was just such a broken soul in every sense of the words, and the gig was up.
When you had the whole world, or what seemed, you multiple millions, this thriving business, superstar clients, these unique experiences, again, it just goes back to that not feeling worthy, not
feeling worthy. And it got to the point where I was in the darkest place in my life. And July 1st, 2008 was my first spiritual awakening, because my Uncle Stu and his then girlfriend Andrea were both sober in a 12-step fellowship for recovered addicts and alcoholics. And they were visiting my mom from Miami, and I had no idea. And they paid me a surprise visit. And I was 25 pounds heavier, white, bloated, sweaty. I never met her before in my life, this woman Andrea, and she just looked at me when she walked in. She said, are you okay? And I said, no. She's like, what's wrong? And I told her. I was honest. I just laid it all out there. And I said, I don't want to live anymore. She goes, okay, I understand that feeling. I've been there. Do you realize that you're an addict and your life is unmanageable? I said, 100%. She goes, do you realize you're powerless over opiates and substances? I said, 100%. I'm going to ask you the most important question. Do you realize that it doesn't matter if you've been to Yale or jail or Park Avenue or Park Bench, that addiction does not discriminate? So all this stuff, the big time agent, doesn't mean a goddamn thing, because you don't mean nothing to yourself. And that one broke my soul, made me cry right there on the spot. And she goes, do you want help? I said, 100%, I'm desperate. She goes, I'm going to put you on a detox plan for the next 36 hours, but you have to do everything I tell you to do, because I could show you the way to what life beyond your wildest dreams. And I love that I still get emotional, because it's so raw, that on that 36 hours, July 2nd, 2008, and I came back from the gym. I was living in the city. I come upstairs, I'm shaking, I'm trembling, I'm vomiting, my stomach's upset. I go to my then wife, I can't do this, I'm calling them up. And I called them up and I said, I'm calling the freaking doctors. I gotta get what I gotta get. My brain is so opiate deficient, I'm never gonna make it. And they started yelling at me, this is the damn disease talking, Darren. This is, been, had you in its threshold for 24 freaking years, from an experiment at sleepaway camp when you took Demerol that got you hooked, to feeling like somebody that you wanted to be. It's time to kick the crap out of the damn disease and go to a 12-step meeting. I said, I can't do it. I've been to those dumb meetings, forget it. Bam, I hung up the phone. Run into the bathroom, hysterical. And now my wife's hysterical because she can't get into the bathroom, wondering what the hell am I doing. And I'm going through the medicine cabinets and I pull out one of the bottles, and oddly enough, 4 Vicodins came out. And we knew we cleaned out every bottle of all the opiates. And for about 30 seconds, it was a gift from God. I said, oh my God, thank God, just what I needed. But then that moment happened, that white light moment between my God and my higher power, because I fell to my knees and I started shaking and trembling and hysterically crying. And I just screamed out from the bathroom, dear God, I can't do this anymore without you. And something came over me because this shoulder caught fire. It felt like I was burning. And I heard a little voice in my right ear tell me, I've got you and you're ready. And I stood up and I flushed the pills. And I wound up on the internet 2 minutes later looking for a 12-step meeting, and there was no Uber back then. I go down to the front of my building in a taxi cab on a beautiful night, July 2nd, 2008. I was like, what the heck just happened? For the first time in my life, I wanted to stay sober more than I wanted to get high. And I walked into a church basement with 150 to 200 addicts and alcoholics who were all once of a hopeless state of mind, exactly like I was in that moment. And they said, is anybody new? Anybody struggling? There was no ego, the so-called big shot super agent. This was life and death. And that meant nothing at this point. I threw my hand right up. I said, guys, I'm sick, I'm suffering. I have 36 hours clean. I don't want to live. You know, I've been dealing with this for 24 years and I'm crying, and about 10 to 12 spiritual brothers and sisters who I never met made me feel a part of for the first time in my life, right then in that church basement in the upper 80s. And they hugged me and they said, we're gonna love you before you learn how to love yourself. Keep coming, the miracle will happen. Take the cotton out of your ears, put it in your mouth, stick with the winners. It's easier to stay sober than it is to get sober again. And I just became psychotic. That OCD for business and using became about those meetings, because I knew I needed to clear out that old soul and pour in all the new stuff. And wasn't blaming anybody. It wasn't the learning disability. It wasn't my mom or dad or the nurse at sleepaway camp that gave me Demerol for stomach pains one night. I had to be accountable. I was the one that had whatever personality flaws. And look, I don't like to start, controversy with it. I understand people say you're at higher risk when addiction runs in the family. I didn't even want to hear that either. Even though on my grandmother's side there might have been alcoholism, it was me. I was the one that didn't speak up. Darren Prince was the one that needed to put something in his system to feel like somebody he wasn't, because he couldn't do it on his own. So it's the 5 A's: action, accountability, acceptance, and attitude adjustment. That's what I call them. And I rolled them up on a ball and I put it into my heart and into my soul. And one day at a time became a week, became a month, and became a year. And I started realizing the greatest gift of this whole thing is now I could be of service and help others to give it back, because we can't keep our sobriety unless we give it away to others. And I also realized that nothing comes before my sobriety. Nothing. Not the business, not my clients, not my dog, not my family, because anything I put before my sobriety, I'm going to lose it. And to this day, I'm the same way. I mean, it's the greatest journey I've ever been on in my life. I've become such a spiritual being. I have learned to say what I mean what I say, and not say it mean. So Omar, remember that one. The next time you might get into an argument with somebody, try to understand people instead of you being understood. These are little spiritual tools that allow my character defects to stay at bay and not come out. Because we call it a 12-step fellowship, and the 10th step is continue to take your personal inventory when you're wrong, promptly admit it. I don't want to have to apologize anymore, because I don't have an option. I've lost the rights to chemical relief. I can't act out, snap at somebody, be that arrogant asshole I was years ago, and then take something to get out of myself. then I have to suffer because of my big fat mouth, and I let my ego get the best of me. So I do everything I can to stay connected to this fellowship and to people in recovery, especially now because it's so needed.
And there was no relapse ever since?
When I fully committed that first time, I don't want to say I'm a first-time winner because I was arrested 4 times at 21, and the judge gave me 1 year probation. I had to go to an outpatient, but we saw what that did. Once that was over, I was running hard again. You know, I thought it was a free pass, get out of jail free. You know, this was, I was ready. I was given on July 2nd, 2008, the gift of desperation. And the gift of desperation slowly led to the power of choice back into my life. And after the power of choice came back into my life, hope and recovery began.
How long did it take for it to start getting easier, or was it a long journey?
It took a couple of years. Yeah, it took a couple of years. My sponsor, Steve, always says I was an exposed nerve that had an ego the size of New Jersey, which where I was from. And
what were the withdrawals like?
They were pretty severe. They were pretty brutal.
Take me the first
if anybody's listening and suffering, because I know that's the hardest thing, eat candy, eat a smoothie, get a Slurpee. That did it for me. You know, go for a run, jump rope, anything to get those natural endorphins and dopamine. Yeah, I mean, look, I became a sugarholic for the first month. It was Hershey bars and Reese's Big Cups and whatever I had to do to get that fix that it wasn't a substance that was going to kill me.
Yeah. Wow. And how long did it take for it to for those withdrawals to kind of wear off?
Probably took about 4 or 5 months. You know, it took 4 or 5 months until I finally started getting a real night of sleep without taking anything. And I was ecstatic when that started happening.
Yeah, and you were still running the business at this time?
Yeah.
The whole time?
Yep.
And in that process, I'm sure you've got to meet with other people who've overcome their addictions.
Yep.
And other people who maybe haven't.
Yep.
What advice would you give to people listening, men, women, of any age right now who, you know, obviously a lot of our listeners and watchers are entrepreneurship minded, right? They're going out there, they want to achieve things, they want to do things in the world, but they can, you know, very often fall victim to a lot of the same things with addiction. You know, I had my own challenges with alcohol prior. But what advice would you give to somebody who's in a moment right now where they're kind of stuck, don't know how to get out, maybe they can't admit it to others, or, you know, what are some step 1, step 2, step 3s that somebody listening to this could look at you and get some advice on?
You know, hope and recovery exist, and you don't need to live this way. There is a solution. I'm living proof. And, you know, I'm accessible to everybody. You're going to give up my Instagram at agent_DP. I'm blessed to be able to give scholarships out through Banyan Treatment Center. There's 14 properties for people that can't afford it that are listening. There's another program I work with, Elite Home Detox, for people that don't want to go to rehab. All these blessings that came into my life that can detox in their own home, that 12, 13 years ago, I celebrated 12 years, July 2nd. You know, wow. There is a solution to get to the core root and the cause on why the behavior started in the first place. And the strength is asking for help.
I love that. And you talk a lot about that in your book here, Aiming High. Can you talk a little bit about why you wrote the book and what you hope people will get out of it?
So this you'll like. After my dad passed, all these amazing spiritual moments really started happening. And because of recovery and sobriety and spirituality, when he was rushed to that hospital in perfect health, had an aneurysm, made it 32 days in the hospital, I had the most amazing moment the day before we put him into hospice, because Hulk Hogan told me to go to the hospital and get alone time with him, because he knew how close I was. And I asked him, are you ready to fight? And keep fighting. I said, Dad, it's okay. If you don't want to, I've got everything handled down here. The business is great. I'm 8.5 years sober. I'll take care of Mom and Stacy. And he looked away, and he already had septic and viruses, as they knew it was pretty bad. And he looked back at me with tears in his eyes and said, I'm ready to go. I said, it's all good. I said, it's good. I said, I'm going to speak to the doctors. I'm as calm as I am right now. Yeah. I said, but I'm going to tell you something about your son. I said, I'm going to touch the world with this experience and change some lives. Because I hear too many times people are drunk or high and not the best version of themselves when they lose a loved one or a parent. And they regret it the rest of their life. And this was the complete opposite for me. That I got to deal with the most uncomfortable time of my life, never feeling so comfortable without thinking of a single thought of picking up a drug or a pill. It's incredible. And about 2 weeks after we passed, Turning Point, New Jersey's largest drug rehab, called me. And they said, we'd like to honor you for your service and what you went to the recovery community. Are you okay speaking in front of 800 people in October? It's like, yeah, sure, I'd love it. I knew nothing about speaking, but I've spoken at AA meetings. And so now that same OCD, found an amazing coach in New York City. My then fiance, Priscilla, would go with me, and 2, 3, 4 days a week rehearsing, watching the way I walked, I talked, not to stumble, to be fluent, to get that message out there, because I knew this was really a blessing. I could now change a life in that room with my story. Did the speech. The next day, Dr. Oz's producer emails Turning Point and said, we have to have that guy Darren Prince on. I follow him on Facebook. His story was incredible. I was in Dr. Oz 2 days later with Darryl Strawberry, and the White House then called. 3 days later, Rona Graff, who's Trump's executive assistant when I dealt with one Celebrity Apprentice, the now President Trump, said, a bunch of us follow you on Facebook and saw your presentation on that Facebook Live, and we're blown away. The White House would like you to call them and go up there, because the president has an initiative to help teens with this incredible opiate epidemic crisis, and they need your help.
Yeah.
All these signs.
Wow.
On the way there, I'm on Instagram, and I see this woman, Anna David, who's a recovery advocate. She has 15 years. I saw her on stage for a TED Talk. I saw her do some stuff with Tony Robbins, and it's amazing. So I shoot her an email. We go back and forth, or DM, and we're going back and forth. And she's like, why don't you come say hello next time you're back in California? I was still living in New Jersey, and that's when the book happened.
Holy
my dad always wanted me to write one about business, but I never felt comfortable. So it's like, to me, that's ego. I don't need to talk about business accomplishments. It's not what defines me anymore. And she goes, your story is so passionate. Why don't you let my publishing company publish your book? And I said, I said again, my dad always wanted me to do something. I was like, no, I have the idea. You take the world on this fly on the wall journey of the super agent life. Why living in a hell of addiction, but coming out of the other side? And that was it. And she goes, you are gonna write a bestseller. And more importantly, you're gonna help change and save lives. And 3 weeks later, I was in Miami with Magic. And again, I had that moment with him, 9 years sober, and told him about the book. He was so excited. I said, Ervin, I gotta ask you a favor, man. I said, is there any way you would write the forward? I know you probably haven't done one since Larry Bird's book. And he looked and put his hand on my shoulder. He goes, boy, if you didn't ask me to write the forward, I'd be so pissed off, because you know how many lives you're gonna touch and change and save? And the process, that was amazing, Omar, because I emailed Mark Cuban for a quote, got right back to me. His brother Ryan's in recovery. Jeannie Buss is a dear friend from the Lakers. Are you kidding, Darren? I'd be honored to give you a quote. Hulk Hogan, you see what his is, one that moved me as much as anybody. Ric Flair, Rodman, Dr. Drew, there's so many people, Roy Jones Jr., they all, Kevin Harrington. And I started realizing, this is so much bigger than business. This is affecting everybody nowadays, everybody. And we all know somebody suffering.
And you know what's wild about this? It seems like your entire life you gave to everybody, trying to get validation for yourself, never getting it. And when you stopped and kind of started giving it for yourself, that's when it all came to you. You took care of everybody else, not yourself. And when you finally took care of yourself, everybody came to take care of you.
Exactly.
Isn't that crazy?
Yep.
What you were seeking all along was inside of you the whole time.
Yep. Magic and I were coming back from a speech last December on the plane, and we were in the back, and I think this was for Oracle, a big one, about 7,000 people. And we're in the back in the production side with all the camera guys like you have here, and somebody sees them, all excited to see him, and then I'm walking behind him. The guy goes, Darren Prince? It's like, yeah. He goes, bro, I gotta shake your hand. He goes, your book, Aiming High, saved my brother's life. He's been sober for 6 months.
Wow.
So we get back on the plane, and he looks at me and he goes, boy, because God can't help but reward you tenfold when you do what you did. He goes, it wasn't money, it was to clear your soul and to help other people. I was at a grocery store, Dennis Rodman was here, he'll tell you. I mean, Dennis is out, man, it's like Hulk Hogan, it's craziness. And 20, 30 people bother him for selfies as he's pushing the cart in West Hollywood. And we get to the counter, and these 2 young kids are coming out of the sliding door, they're coming back in, and Dennis was like, oh, no, guys. I let go. You're Darren Prince. Dennis is like, there's no way. He goes, there's no way this is happening. They give Dennis their phone to take a picture with me and them. They both read my freaking book, and one of them just celebrated 8 months sober.
Wow.
That means more to me than
cow.
any sort of business deal I could ever do.
I was just gonna say, that's probably way more fulfilling than any transaction.
I'm a guy that's fine being behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I don't need accolades, I'm pretty sure almost anybody has the ability to make the icons and the legends and the people that I work for money. But to know that this is impacting a life. I don't have kids, I'm 50 years old, and I could say I know for a fact that I'm saving other mommy and daddy's children because I finally found my purpose. From my pain became my purpose. I finally found my soul on this journey. It's just exhilarating. That's what makes me high.
That is so beautiful, brother. What do you find, in all these meetings and in covering all these people, what do you find are common denominators of why people get addicted? I'm sure you've seen patterns, but what is it? I mean, I'm sure you've been in the trenches, you've heard stories, you've helped turn around so many people's lives.
Yeah, and I've been to more meetings around the world than I think anybody in the history of the 85 years of fellowship. I love talking about this when I do speeches. I've been to Sydney, Australia, Brisbane, London, Paris, Monaco. Magic and Cook had their 60th birthday celebration in Nice last August with 250 other closest friends. I went in 2 days early, and I hit a beach meeting in Nice with 35 people that were all in recovery.
Wow.
And I'm just like, this is, because you walk into an environment, you don't know anybody,
right,
but you actually know every single person there. And you're not home, but you're home. Yeah. And that one little hour, not that you're thinking about getting high or relapsing, it just makes you your best self. It allows you to be of service. It allows us to slow down the crap manufacturing in our brain, and just help others. And, a lot of it, I think, a lot of it is just uncomfortability in their own skin. I think a lot of it is just unconfidence, low self-esteem, the ability to fit in more, trauma, obviously, with some people. I didn't really have anything major trauma-wise, but what's incredible is we're all different people from all walks of life. I know people, my sponsor's been in prison for 4 years. We have nothing in common, but we have every friggin' thing in common you could ever imagine. Yeah. I'm a Jewish kid from upper middle class family. He's a street kid from Newark, New Jersey. And it's just the most beautiful thing in the world. When I was, Mike Tyson, Dennis was on his podcast, and Mike brought me in and put me on the podcast, and you could see Mike talking to me about, the 12-step fellowship. And Mike and I've had these talks one-on-one in a hotel room at a corporate event I did for him, and he goes, some of the most beautiful people he ever met in his life are still friends to this day, are from AA and the 12-step meetings.
And what is it in those meetings you find is the common denominator for what gets most people addicted?
I think it's, I just think it's, you just wind up chasing a certain feeling that makes you into somebody or not, but then nobody beats it. And then at a certain point, whether it's 1 year, 5 years, 20 years, you find out you're in this place that you can't get out of it. And some make it, some end up in jail, some end up 6 feet under. And then for the 5 or 6% come through those doors, we're given a new lease on life. Our bottoms become our brand new beginnings.
Dude, that's so powerful. I literally can't even imagine the amount of impact that you've had all over the world with people with this book. Do you think that like a lot of people who maybe hear your story or maybe are dealing with their own addictions, do you think it's possible for anybody at any age to start getting some help? Do you encourage people to get coaches, mentors, sponsors to help get out of it, or do you think it starts with them themselves taking action, joining a program, or can they do it solo? I mean, what advice would you give?
I don't think the 12-step fellowship is for everybody. I think some could be just going through a rough spot in life, and it's that accountability, that acceptance, it's taking that action, and then eventually that attitude adjustment comes, because you're now accountable for whatever might have caused it without pointing fingers. My biggest blessing is, I did 57 speaking engagements last year. I'm probably, only because it's all Zoom now, maybe going to do 15 this year, and I love going to the high school kids. I love going to the high school kids because I've seen the impact in the room of a huge auditorium of a couple thousand kids when I'm done. That sometimes they actually get the courage because of some God-given words that came out of my mouth to put their hand up and tell them themselves in front of 2,000 students. That's as powerful as it gets. That's.
And those are the moments that stick out for sure. Yeah. It's like Tony Robbins has this line, says, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. Yeah. And it seems like you had success your whole life, but never fulfillment.
I've finally found self-esteem. Not from Magic Johnson or Hulk Hogan or Dennis Rodman. I found my self-esteem from doing esteemable acts. That's how it came.
From Darren Prince.
Yeah.
Wow, dude, this is incredible. Now, we talked about everything. I think so many people are going to be inspired by this. But real quick, before we wrap up, we had some people write in, and they wanted to hear some incredible stories from some of the amazing people you met.
Yep.
So, is it cool if I rifle off a couple names and you just tell me funny stories?
Absolutely.
So I know you mentioned Denzel Washington. Let's hear the Denzel story.
That was a fun one because yesterday you were asking me, how was Robert De Niro? How was, and I'm like, Omar, I can't really give you the actual honest answer because I'm with the kings of the world when I meet these people who De Niro looks up to. So of course they're going to treat Darren Prince like an equal.
Yeah.
So I had one experience with Denzel Washington. It was a sweetheart. Me and Joe met him at the Sunset Room one time at Butch Lewis, one of Joe's old boxing promoters that's since passed, and couldn't have been nicer. I know he lives in where Magic lives in that gated community, and I told him I was Magic's guy, and we're all hanging out for an hour, and I just thought it was awesome. Like, he's a huge fan and longtime friend of Smoking Joe. So I'm at Koi Sushi Restaurant. Probably, this had to be maybe 14, 15 years ago with my then fiance, who became my wife. I'm with 6 beautiful women, her and 5 of her friends. And she's like, baby, look who's in the corner. It's Denzel Washington. Don't you know him? I was like, oh my God, it's so cool. Yeah, I'm like, let me get Joe on the phone. Let me get Champ on the phone. So Joe picks up, he's in the gym, and it was like 10 o'clock at night back there in Philly. I go, Champ. He goes, hey boss man, what you doing? I said, I'm in LA. I'm at a restaurant with Denzel. He goes, oh man, let me say hello to him. So I walk over all happy, and he's like literally in a conversation like this, and I go, hey Denzel man, I'm sorry for bothering you. When he looks up like this, then why are you? I was like, whoa. And I'm like, no man, I said, I'm Darren Prince. I'm Smoking Joe Frazier's agent and Magic's. We had dinner at the Sunset Room, maybe a year or so ago. Joe's on the phone for you. Goes, Champ's on the phone? I go, yeah, I go right here. So he grabs the phone. He goes, Champ? And now he's laughing, that big smile. But I'm standing like an idiot for 3 minutes. They're on the phone laughing back and forth, telling stories with each other about experiences over the years. And he covers up the mouthpiece. He goes, where are you sitting, my man? I go over there. He goes, okay, I'll bring your phone to you. He made up for it. He showed me he was a class act, bro, because he came back to the table, put me in a little headlock, gave me a little noogie, and he goes, come here, man, get up. He goes, I am so sorry. Yeah. He goes, I should have looked up. And he goes, I said, man, it's all good. I said, I handled it wrong because, to be honest with you, I hate when I'm out to dinner with Hulk or some of my guys and people say, I'm so sorry, because there's something wrong and inappropriate with what you're doing at the time. Otherwise, you wouldn't have said that.
Right, exactly.
And he goes, man, it's all good. He goes, ladies, he walks around to every woman. He took pictures with them. He goes, let me get the waiter. I want to get a round of dessert, drinks, and desserts for everybody at this table. Oh, and he gave me a hug and left.
Holy cow. Another day being Darren Prince. What are some other, maybe like a notable one?
I mean, you can go down the list. There's, Hulk Hogan.
Hulk Hogan.
He said to me, when I was at my wit's end about a week before that breakthrough, that, it's about riding the highs in life and surviving the lows. And he goes, brother, I just can't imagine life without you, and I really hope you can pull through this and, get to the other side. He goes, you're a good dude, man. I mean, you can read that on the show. Read what he wrote, that quote. You want to talk about powerful.
He says, for 17 years, Darren has worked 24/7 as my sports agent. I've seen him at his worst and now at his best. Aiming high is all about the journey he took to get there and how today he is living a spiritual life one day at a time. 10 years ago, he asked for the blessing, and now he's become one. Wow.
Tells you the type of man Terry Bollea, a.k.a. Hulk Hogan is,
That's great. Jeannie Buss here. I'm often asked, Jeannie Buss from the Lakers, co-owner of the Lakers, I'm often asked how it's possible to keep your soul intact in a business known for being heartless. Darren Prince is the example I point to, as he always takes the holistic view for both sides of a negotiation. I admire his passion for his clients and the standards he has brought to our industry. Darren's personal struggles should also help inspire others. Lakers co-owner Jeannie Buss.
Yeah, that says it all, just to get support like that, man. I mean, I've got stories with everybody. I told you the Evel Knievel one, which is all about your show. So I had an online slot machine deal with the company for him back in maybe 2005.
Evel Knievel was a client?
He was a big fan of Magic and friendly with Ali and Frazier, but he still didn't trust me wound up calling me after I emailed his website. So he said he would love to meet Magic one day. I picked up the phone, I called Magic. He was on vacation, I forgot, in Hawaii with his wife and Dave Winfield and some other couples. And I go to Ervin, I said, it was the same sort of thing, I'm sorry for bothering you, man. I got Evel Knievel on the other line and about to get him as a client. You mind saying hello to him? He goes, you got Evel Knievel? He goes, man, I loved him growing up. So I conferenced them in, and it was like this amazing respect fest going on for 20 minutes. And Magic ended the call, goes, and Evel, by the way, there ain't nobody better than Darren Prince, just so you know, because he is one of the most solid dudes you'll ever meet. And thank you, Magic, because I'd love to meet you if you're ever in the Tampa area. And 3 days later, I went to Butte, Montana, having a nice little party for 2 days, drinking some beers and partying with Evel Knievel. And he told me that, he goes, one thing about me, Darren, and I'll never forget these words. And this is all about your podcast, I have failed 10 more times than I succeeded. They talk more about the jumps that I missed with 44 broken bones than the ones that I made. But one thing about this son of a bitch, I got up every goddamn time, and that's what life's about. Never forgot that, coming from a man that was probably the closest thing to a superhero when I was growing up.
Wow. What else did you pick up from Evel Knievel when you were with him?
What
was he driven by?
What's the word? Adrenaline.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've ever had any of these extreme guys on, and Tony Hawk, that he was the godfather. That was it, man. He did it before anybody, and did it on a 500-pound motorcycle when these guys are doing it now on a motorcycle that's 150 pounds. And, he had some screws loose, but, he was about entertaining. He was great with kids. He loved being Evel Knievel, man. He was so beat up the last couple of years with walking with a cane and an oxygen machine and a morphine pump. And if I was with him, I would apologize because I saw him struggling trying to get out of the car. He goes, Darren, don't ever apologize. There's no king or queen that's ever had a life like me. And he meant it.
Yeah.
He meant it. He had his arrogance and his swagger to him.
Yeah.
But he called me about a week before he passed. And just out of nowhere, I just did a commercial for his lunchbox with eBay, an eBay commercial bouncing across the screen. And he called me up and he goes, Darren, I just want to let you know, good luck with, it was before my wedding, good luck with your wedding. I hope it doesn't end in divorce, because most do. He goes, I hope you don't spend a lot of money.
Yeah.
And he goes, but I think the world of you. In these past few years, you've really worked hard on my behalf, and I just wanted to let you know that. And it meant so much to me.
Wow.
For a guy like him, that could be a little bit crotchety at times, to say that. And I was devastated. He was the first client that I lost. He passed about a week and a half later.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, what do you find? Because I know in this interview we talked a lot about your journey, but more so about how you're able to turn things around. Obviously, addiction, advice to others. But let's go to the business side just for a little bit.
Yep.
And I want to say, a lot of people in business who are watching, whether they're, in sales or real estate or, management, or they have a product or a service or whatever it is, what advice do you have for people about, what it takes to really win in business? Obviously, you rub elbows with some of the most successful people on the planet and have for multiple decades. Mm-hmm. So you've seen common denominators of, what the successful do, and you've seen common denominators of what, for lack of a better expression, the people who don't succeed do. Mm-hmm. What are the common denominators? What are the common patterns you realize that have helped you attain your success, and that you see some of the top achievers do?
It's really simple. People overcomplicate. I know you've had some of the greatest business minds in the world. Watch your overhead and surround yourself with people that are smarter and more talented than you, that make up for whatever you're not great at. And you'll learn from the people that have success from their failures, which will save you a fortune of money and time, and then you get to gravitate towards their success. I'm not saying mentors, but just people in general that you can kind of sponge off of and have the ability and that privilege to learn, so you can minimize your downside and maximize your upside.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I asked at the mastermind, I believe you were there as well. Yeah. I asked Magic about his best advice, and he said the best advice he ever got was from a sports agent who didn't want to take him prior or something. And he said that his best advice to me, he said, "What's your name?" I said, "Omar." He said, "My best advice to you," he goes, "Omar, do you believe you're the best at what you do?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, then if you believe you're with the best, always run with the best. Because if you don't, you're going to end up going for the cheap route, and you're going to have, you're going to come back around to then work with the best anyways. If you're always playing that game, then you'll always be in a losing thing. So you always want to surround yourself with the best.
Exactly.
Do you find, for example, that there are certain patterns with finding good talent, good people, whether it's with your team, hiring, growing your business? Any advice you'd give to people out there on how to hire superstars?
I just have an amazing team, man. I got both Steve and Frankie back east that have been with me forever, and I've got my two amazing girls, Mathilda and Julia and Nikki C, and we just all work so well together, and it's not easy in this business. We just know exactly what we're looking for, and they all know how to pick up the slack. And their job is to just make me look good when they can, as often as possible. Even if I'm having an off day, even if I'm overwhelmed, take the load off of me. I mean, we single-handedly recreated the business during the pandemic. We started Prince Digital Group. Prince Digital Group is all about social media, branding opportunities and Zoom events and Zoom motivational talks and digital commercials. And I had foresight on March 15th when this was all happening. Look, traveling's done for a year at least. This isn't going to change. So, my guys, and I can't get Carmen Electra and Denise Richards and Charlie and all these people to get on the plane. It is what it is. So let's find another way to educate the brands. Let's teach them that this is super effective. And if celebrities are willing to discount certain projects because, hey, now, like Scottie Pippen did a Zoom event that we had for him. Jerry Rice has done several of them. These guys love it. They're sitting at their house with the freaking in front of the computer and talking to people for an hour. And it's good for them. It's good for their mindset because they can't be them either. So it's a win-win for everybody. And the brands have been gravitating to it like crazy. I just think, even in business, just like in your personal life, when you're backed up against the wall, you got to try to get out of that place of fear. It's like we always say, the acronym is forget everything and run, or face everything and recover. And it's really easy watching the news. It's real easy surrounding yourself with negative people. I just don't do that. That's not me anymore, because I know negative people, negative things will take me out of my spiritual realm of gratitude, and that glass is half full, so much quicker than I'll bring them over to my way of life. And I'll pray for those people. I'll love them from a distance, like Joel Osteen says. He's a friend of mine. We spoke about that earlier. It's just not worth it. I mean, to not wake up with gratitude every day and have that gratitude list, and just, if you're breathing, you got a shot. If your business is suffering, 99 out of 100 things you're going to stress about or project, even in your personal life, nothing's going to happen that way.
It's all just worst case scenario.
One thing that goes sideways, if you give it time, might be the biggest blessing that ever happened to you.
100%, yeah. Now, what about the art of a negotiation? A lot of people will probably look to you and go, you've done some of the biggest deals ever. In a transaction, whether it's, because I'm sure we're talking big, biggest clients ever, big deals. Somebody like Magic, he's got companies in the billions cumulatively. What's the key to the art of a good deal? My office thinks that I came up with the most brilliant way to start a negotiation. Somebody will be like, how much might it cost, what does it cost to get in business with, Joe Montana or Magic Johnson for, so I tell them, this is the best. I go, here's how you go back to them, because you never want to negotiate against yourself. Well, it's not going to be $1, but it's also not going to be 5 million either. So just come to us with a number and we'll bring it to the client. And I tell you, bro, every time we pull an offer, and then we can start negotiating from that offer. We just give them some crazy range and we pull an offer out of them, because again, you just never want to negotiate against yourself, but it's also being fair to the other side. We can't gouge a corporation. It's got to work. We got to make sure it fits within their budget. They get everything that they need. They get all the promotional value that they can, because I'm not here to do short money deals. All my clients want long-term relationships. I want the long-term corporate relationship. So you always have to make sure it works for both sides. I mean, my first and foremost priority is getting the best deal for one of our celebrities, but it's also making sure it works for the brand, because you want to grow with them too. We deal with startups, we deal with huge companies. Like I said, we just did Amazon with Magic, but it's just about getting that relationship going and just making sure it's fair for everybody involved. It's win-win on both sides.
Yep.
What's the scariest or biggest deal you've ever been a part of that you're comfortable sharing, or is legal to share?
The scariest or business deal. The scariest might have been sending Dennis Rodman to North Korea. I put that whole deal together with Shane Smith.
You put the Kim Jong-un and Dennis Rodman?
It's in my book.
No.
I did everything. And my boy, Chris Vovolo, went on every trip with him except the first one.
Okay.
And I went.
Please tell us the story.
Okay, so
this is Dennis Rodman, Kim Jong-un.
Shane and one of his producers contacted me in 2012, I believe it was, that Michael Jordan turned it down. Scottie Pippen wasn't interested, but apparently this Kim Jong-un guy who just took over is a huge Dennis fan. They sent me pictures of him in a '91 Bulls jersey from
the leader of North Korea.
I think it was in Switzerland. He was in boarding school in the '90s wearing a Rodman jersey that he was a big fan. So I didn't know anything about the guy. It's a great story. So I call up Dennis and I said, hey, these guys are producing a documentary with the Globetrotters. They want you to go to North Korea and film it. I go, bro, it's not a lot of money. It's probably like 50 grand, but kind of a cool trip. And, it's the Globetrotters. Who knows what can come out of it? He goes, maybe I'll go. About 2 months into negotiation, everything starts going sideways with clearances. They can't get the camera crew and they can't do this. And I never heard so many problems going into a country where they kept pushing back the dates. Psy becomes the biggest thing in the world, the Gangnam Style at this point. So I'm really pushing because in my mind, I'm thinking South and North Korea are the same thing. I don't know the difference. Either does Dennis.
Yeah.
So I was like, bro, you're gonna make sure I meet up with the Gangnam Style when I'm out there. That'd be pretty cool. Because he knew how big he was. Not that Dennis cared, but he just thought it'd be kind of a cool PR hit. Him and the South Korean guy with the #1 hit, and I finally get it done. About 6-7 months after they contact us, I go downstairs to see Simon, my boy since I was 10. Again, I talk about this in the book, did my first baseball card show with me at 14. Steve's the intellect of the office, has his master's, very book smart. I go, bro, I got the deal done. Look, I go, we just got this signed by Vice Media. We're sending Dennis to North Korea in a month. Cool, right? He goes, let me see this. And he looks, he goes, bro, he's fucking going to Pyongyang? He goes, are you freaking kidding me? I go, yeah. I go, bro, we just got to find Psy's publicist now because Dennis wants to meet him. Yeah. He looks at me, he drops a thing. He goes, are you an idiot? He goes, bro, you can't send him to North Korea. This isn't South, it's North Korea. Yeah. And I really had no idea, and neither did Dennis. So I called Dennis back, and I told him what Steve said. He goes, bro, I don't care. He goes, you know what, this could be pretty historic. Imagine if I actually meet this guy, and I can hook him up with President Obama. This would be amazing.
Dennis Rodman.
Motherfucker. He goes, this would be amazing if Dennis Rodman can pull this off, right? He's just talking about himself in the third person. And I'll tell you, when he was out there, Vice Media Shane and his right-hand executive producer told me, this is going to be the biggest media hit your client has ever seen, bigger than the wedding dress, because social media is out nowadays.
Right.
I didn't understand it. I woke up at 4 a.m. with the time differences. When I tell you, hundreds of media requests, texts. It was so groundbreaking when he was seen in that epic shot, clapping next to Kim Jong-un. But Dennis told me at 1 a.m. before I went to bed that apparently he's going to meet him in a few hours at the game. They had to debrief him about how it was going to go. And bro, I spent like 2 extra days there drinking with him, having a good time, eating food, meeting the family. And when he came back, it was Stephanopoulos that got him first. And I wish we didn't do it because Dennis had a long night out of drinking, so it wasn't one of his better interviews. He kind of went on there a little bit buzzed. And but man, it was incredible. He came back. We got the cover of Newsweek, Sports Illustrated. Oprah did a catch-up with him. He opened Saturday Night Live, which I think they said they've never had an athlete his age open Saturday Night Live with a skit. Yeah. He did a Foot Locker commercial. He did a wonderful pistachio commercial. I don't know if you remember that one, where they had a Kim Jong-un look-alike. And Dennis hit the little bomb buzzer, and the Kim Jong-un guy blew up as he had a bag of pistachios. Yeah, it was, and then he started realizing, this is pretty crazy because our own president, nobody has a relationship with this guy, and he just started saying, bro, you got to get me back there. Get a sponsor to cover the expenses. Get a sponsor to cover the flights. And him and my boy, Chris Vovolo, they crushed it. And there's a guy, Professor Joe Tolleringer, that goes with them. He's a North Korean expert, speaks fluently. He's a professor out of NYU on North Korean culture. And they've put together some of the most historic trips, which really indirectly, Vice followed back up with Dennis when he went to Singapore when Trump met Kim Jong-un 2 years ago.
Right.
And Sarah Saunders called Dennis. Yeah. And they actually have it. Again, it's a clip you can pull up online, and thanked him for his service of getting to this point on behalf of President Trump.
Wow.
And that was the night before President Trump met Kim Jong-un. So Dennis really
That's wild.
opened the doors. Yep.
Did Dennis tell you what he was like? Any
He
stories?
just said he's a regular guy and that he wants to change the course of history, that he really inherited his father and his grandfather's regime and their way of life. And he really would love to come to America and actually watch a basketball game.
No
and be
way.
a part of it, yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they sent me pictures, bro, from a ski lodge
Yeah.
that they literally water skiing
Yeah.
on jet skis and water skiing with Kim Jong-un and his family. It was,
Could
I'm
you
like,
ever-
this is insane.
Could you imagine?
Like, how the heck did this happen?
If someone could go back to the Darren Prince, who was 13, 14 years old getting picked on, who
Yep.
maybe wanted the girls or wanted whatever, to think that you would, not only make hundreds of thousands of dollars in high school, sell your company for $1 million at 19, go on to represent some of the biggest names on the planet, sit courtside with Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, be involved with, Dennis Rodman being your client that you're coordinating with the leader of North Korea.
Yeah.
If someone could tell that Darren Prince at 13 that that's what was going to happen in your life, what would that young man have
say
said?
you're freaking crazy. I wouldn't have understood it. I mean, there's just, yeah, right. You must be thinking about the wrong guy. There's
Yeah.
no way that's me.
That's so wild. Now, before we wrap up, I do want to ask, what advice do you have for people out there who are hearing your story? And we'll get one advice on success in life and business, but then the other one on addiction and overcoming it. So if you could look into the camera for people around the world listening, men, women, people of all ages who want to make their life work. The show's called The Passionate Few. And the reason that I called it The Passionate Few was because I realized that although many people have access to wisdom, very few people actually take action on it, do something with it. So what advice would you give to those people, the passionate few out there, first on, people who want to make their life, their vision, their dreams a reality in business and more of a, where they want to elevate their life or their business or their family. Maybe they're the young version that you once were who was aspiring to do these big things. If you could look into the camera and speak to someone's heart, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give them, somebody looking for answers?
So as far as business first, you want? Okay, so as far as business first, I would say take as many educated risks as you can. Because even if you fail a half a dozen times or 10 times or 12 times, you just need one hit. And everybody I've ever worked with or know, big corporate giants and CEOs, have all failed. Probably way more time than they ever succeeded. It was that one time that happened. And then just everything changed. And believe me, I've failed too plenty of times. But you learn from it, that's the key. When you get smarter each and every time. And you leverage and you hedge yourself each and every time about it going sideways and not working out, so you're smarter and more prepared the next time. Then what about, you want something on recovery from me?
Yeah, well, before that, I want to zoom in on one sub point, and that's proximity. Because if there's anything that your story teaches, particularly as it relates to the business side more than the recovery side, although I guess it dabbles in the recovery side as well, is the power of proximity, right? Because a lot of people would think like, oh, let me work really hard and and then I'll be successful. But they don't realize, same thing with real estate agents. Some real estate agents sell a $500,000 house, some sell a $5 million house, same paperwork, different commission, right? So it's playing a bigger game. So in your experience, can you talk to people out there about how important proximity is, being around the people, being around the energy, being around the circles that you want to work with? Because a big reason is because you found one client and that introduced you to another, and then you got into the bubble.
Leveraging.
You didn't, exactly, leveraging relationships, win-win style. Because, coming from Long Island, you said?
New Jersey.
Coming from New Jersey, like you weren't headed to the West Coast to represent some of the biggest names on the planet.
No.
So can you talk about how important that is and what advice you'd give to people about how to get into the circles they want to elevate their life?
Yeah, so if there's certain people that you want to emulate, whether it's locally or even nationally, take that chance and message them on Twitter, Facebook. Maybe you can find somebody to give you some guidance. It's super important. And if it's in your hometown or where you live, gravitate towards those sorts of people, because just being in that circle is going to give you the upper hand versus listening to people that you think might want the best for you, because a lot of times those people, they haven't achieved what you're looking to achieve. A lot of them deep down are haters, and they really don't want you to get to the successful spot. So the only way to do it is surround yourself with those type of people that have already, had that success. With me though, the one point I want to bring up, and I mentioned this to you on the call yesterday, money buys temporary happiness, I believe. It doesn't buy happiness. It buys freedom, buys the ability to take care of people. I honestly could say if I lost every dime tomorrow, I'd still be Darren Prince because I found me. And I could look back and say, man, what a run I had. What's next for me? You know, maybe I work at a drug and alcohol rehab and that's my purpose. You know, it's the only thing that would break my heart is that I can't take care of my coworkers, my friends, my family, and the people that I care about so much because I wouldn't have the resources to do it. But, you know, success is what you define it to be. It doesn't need to be about the crazy money and the wealth and the private jets and the cars and the houses. It's being good with you and in here and in here and in here.
Yeah. And even when you had all that, you weren't happy.
No, I wasn't happy.
Yeah. And what about the recovery addiction? Somebody out there listening, you know, maybe he's been going through something for a couple years now, a couple months. Maybe they're struggling to get out of that hole. And, you know, I highly recommend them to check out the book, Aiming High. But if you could speak into their heart as if they were in the room right now, heart to heart, what would Darren Prince's best advice be to them to?
So I've been there. I know what you're feeling. But you truly can take this bottom in your life and make it into a brand new beginning. You can take your pain and make it your greatest purpose in life. And it's just a matter of asking for help. And stop living that lie. Stop living in shame. You know, I understand the level of embarrassment. I kept it from everybody in my life. But man, what a freedom when I came out openly and honestly. And I was given that gift, and one day at a time I learned how to live life. I put the pieces back together. Like I said earlier, I was accountable. And I took an action. And it single-handedly has been the greatest blessing in my life. And you guys understand, we're all talking about celebrities and icons, whatever. When my legacy, when I'm long gone, what I want it to be, I don't care about the agent life. It's given me blessings. The relationships have been amazing. I would honestly be okay on my tombstone with said a recovering drug addict that gave the gift of spiritual sobriety to other people. That's what's the most important to me. That's how important it is to me.
Powerful, man. Before we wrap up, we always play a game called First Things First.
Okay.
And so the way the game works, it's kind of like a relation game. So I just rifle off a quick word or phrase, and then you just tell me the first word or phrase that comes to mind.
Okay.
Make sense? So it's kind of like a fun relation game. Mm-hmm. So 10. Okay. The only rule is you can't repeat yourself twice.
So I got to give different answers?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can't repeat yourself twice. You just tell me the first word or phrase that comes to mind. Okay? Okay. Number 1, recovery.
Beautiful.
Prince Marketing Group.
The best.
The biggest misconception people have about money.
Doesn't make you happy.
What you hope people who listen to this interview take away from it and apply to their life.
To change and save a life and inspire.
The best decision you ever made.
Getting sober.
The worst decision you ever made.
Probably dealing with that connection that was selling me the bad autographs in the mid-90s. But then again, a great blessing came out of it.
Yeah. Your book, Aiming High.
Privilege and honor. Healing.
Your legacy when Darren Prince is dead, gone, and nothing but a pile of dust.
He was here of service to help others to be the best version of themselves.
And passion.
You know, helping others, recovery, motivation, inspiration.
And the last one, you ready? The Darren Prince legacy moving forward.
Continue to build the agency, get new clients, do remarkable things for brands and different initiatives, and help to change and save as many lives as I can with this beautiful gift of spiritual sobriety that I was given by others who came before me.
I love it, brother. Thank you so much for coming on the show to inspire the world and our audience, my
Thanks,
man.
man.
And where can people find out more about you if they want to get in touch with you or Prince Marketing Group? Where can people find you?
At agent_DP is Instagram. www.princemarketinggroup.com is our website. I'm on Facebook, and my personal recovery page that has amazing spiritual messages, which is the most important thing I want to plug here, because I'll send out free books to anybody that messages me on Instagram. My office will do it. officialdarrenprince.com. If you're struggling with mental health, anxiety, depression, drug addiction, alcoholism. Go on there, you'll see some great messages to hopefully turn your bottom into a beginning.
I love you. Much love, Darren. And for you guys watching at home, you can make sure to follow Darren and check out everything in the description below, as well as check out his book, Aiming High, to help you take your life, your business, your recovery, your sobriety to the next level. Thank you so much for being on the show today, Darren.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you so much for enjoying this video. And if you found this content valuable, uplifting, and inspiring to take your life and your business to the next level, then I have some exciting news for you. Because the Passionate Few Academy officially launched our brand new on-demand training that you can access absolutely free at www.tpfacademy.com. Right there, you'll learn the #1 way to grow your personal brand or business brand online fast. The same way I've learned from interviewing some of the most successful people on the planet right here on the show who've done exactly that. So again, don't forget to check it out, www.tpfacademy.com. I promise you, you'll be blown away. And also, don't forget, there's 3 ways you can connect with me further. #1, you can text me absolutely free at the number on the screen right now and send me your most pressing life, business, or branding question, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. #2, if you'd like to be interviewed on the show, you can actually apply right now in the description below and apply to share your incredible story, brand, or business right here with an audience of potentially millions of people, the same way we've helped experts, entrepreneurs, and authors just like you. And don't forget, that opportunity comes with the ability to partner with us and help feed 1 million people through our partnership with Feeding America. Again, you can click the link in the description below titled Interview Application to find out more. And last but not least, #3, if you'd like to get consulting from our team and work with you to help you grow your personal brand or business brand, no matter what industry you're in, we can do that by simply filling out the questionnaire in the description below titled Consulting Application. And if our team thinks that you'd be a great fit, who knows, you may just be invited to work with us to help you take your business to the next level. All right, that's it. Thank you so much for enjoying this video. Make sure to smash that subscribe button, turn on post notifications so you never miss an episode. And until next time, live strong, live with passion, and I'll see you in the next inspiring video.